All right, why does it say we're live 10 seconds? That can't be true. But all right, we are live, Steve.
We're live.
We're live. Okay. And we can see, so there's nobody watching right now, so I don't have to, but, and I can edit this afterwards, but you ready to roll?
Let's do it.
All right, brother. Welcome, everybody, to Laying the Points with FarleyBets. We are here. It's week 4 of the NFL. Steve and I doing our regular weekly ATS breakdown of every NFL game. This should be streaming live on Twitter right now, so that's exciting as we continue this ship here with StreamYard and just making things easier for me. Man, I love it because all that crap I had to do on the back end was getting on my nerves. But welcome, everybody, once again. Please check us out at theoddsbreakers.com. I'm a contributing writer there. A lot of great writers there at the Odds Breakers, always putting out content, still putting out baseball content. I mean, basketball's around the corner. Hockey is back. Again, what is it, preseason hockey right now, Steve?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then I'm not very locked into the NHL, and I probably won't be anytime soon, but we have great writers on that. There's writers on horse racing. There's writers on golf. I mean, we got it all, UFC. So check us out at theoddsbreakers.com. My name is Chris R. Farley, at Chris R. Farley 1 on Twitter, or at FarleyBets on Twitter and Instagram. And he is at Snorm, SNOR. I always mess that part up. SNORM. So Snorm twice. At Bobo Bets on Twitter. Gaining some prominence there, Steve, because of that record, which I'll get to in a second. But things are going well for this pod, and let's just go over some of our records from last week. So on my part, I was 15-7 overall, 8-7 straight up on straight up plays, but 7-0 on teasers. Nailed every one of my teaser legs for my premium customers, which is always a great feeling because if you have 7 teaser legs that you nail, you can make a lot of different combinations for a lot of money in that one. So that put me up 20 units, plus 26 units on the week, which I needed after week 2 kicked my ass. So overall, I'm 25-22, plus 14 units on the year. Steve rolls into week 4 with a 10-2-1 record in week 3, plus 7.86 units. And Steve, you are overall 29-14, plus 29.96 units. 29-14 is a 67% win rate in the first 3 weeks. That's really good. It's going to be tough to keep up all season, but let's see if you can do it. And plus nearly 21 units. That's awesome, man. So the pod here, Steve and I rolling. How are you feeling about week 4, man? We were just talking about the grind. It is a grind.
It is a grind. One thing I know is you're only as good as your last week, and you definitely have to stay humble in this industry. So I'm definitely not going to get too ahead of myself at all. Felt good to have a nice solid week there, especially after having a whatever week 2. But I'm looking forward to this week 4 as I think Vegas is definitely going to be more on point. I feel like a lot more people were taking advantage of them last week.
Yeah, spoken like a true sharp, staying humble because we know what can happen if we get too ahead of ourselves. And yeah, I won't reveal the sports book that sent me this email, but I got an email the other day thanking me for not posting any of my bets on their sports book last week because they lost so much money. I mean, the books I think got slammed across the board last week. So they'll come back with a vengeance this week in NFL week 4. A lot of tough lines as usual, but I do think that they're even tougher this week. And I should mention once again, since we're always on the topic of sports betting, there is a growing business now called Sports Wagering U, or at Sports Wager U on Twitter, which we have a bunch of great handicappers putting in time, putting in articles for that. And the idea for that is we're going to teach people how to be sharp, how to learn, and to bet like the pros, the pro handicappers. So check that out on Twitter at Sports Wager U for more information about that. Looking to host our first class here in late October. So that's pretty exciting. A lot of things going on, man. A lot going on. And as usual, Steve and I will talk about our circa picks or just address some of our favorite picks, hopefully, in this podcast, since we're entered into the circa million contest. And we did go 4-1 last week. So we needed that one too, because I think we went 1-4 in week 2.
Yeah.
So we need more 4-1s, 5-0s if we're going to compete. And I believe we can do it because we're just getting sharper as the season goes on. And as we learn more about these teams, right? So let's get right into it. The Thursday night game is the Jacksonville Jaguars 0-3 at the Bengals. Bengals minus 7.5-point favorites at home. Total now sits at 46. Steve, I guess I could take this one first because I don't have too much to say about it. Maybe you have more to say. This feels a little bit like a trap game for me for Cincy. I mean, the Jaguars have to play a little better eventually. They have to be a little more competitive eventually. This could be the spot just because that was a huge win for Cincinnati at Pittsburgh last week. You know, we saw the Raiders after winning in Pittsburgh. They went home and nearly lost to the Dolphins in overtime, pulled that one out. But a huge win. I mean, anytime the Bengals can beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh, I don't know how long that's been, but crazy win for the Bengals. They got outplayed in some areas still, but they ended up making the plays when it mattered. Now we have the two second-year quarterback Joe Burrow going against rookie quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Clemson versus LSU here, but this is the first time that they've ever actually faced each other. And I kind of I'm going to stay away from the line here. I kind of lean towards the over because I could see both teams doing better than usual on offense. I don't really trust these two defenses. Even though Cincinnati has been a lot better on defense, they can still allow a lot of yards and points. But I'm looking at some props here for the quarterbacks. Kind of want to play on Trevor Lawrence over 250 yards passing. Or no, I think it's Joe Burrow over 250 yards. I'm not sure where Trevor's line sits in passing yards, but I think the quarterbacks could want this win more than some of the other players, just kind of show out against the other, high-profile quarterbacks. I'll be looking at those, but no play on the sides from here. What do you think of this one, Steve?
Yeah, the one thing I've been looking at, and it's going to be kind of more of a trend today, is I'm definitely looking at the percentage of where the money's going on a lot of these games now. And 71% of the money is on the Bengals, and this line has pretty much stayed the same. And that is, like you said, kind of maybe a trap there. It brings into question, why is that line not moving even a little bit up to 8.5? So I kind of am with you on this one. If we look back at Trevor Lawrence last week, they had two drives that they could have came back and covered against Arizona, but he fumbled on both of them. They were staying in that game with the Cardinals. It was kind of a little risky. Looked like a risky bet there for a little bit at the 7.5. Luckily, with the turnovers, where Jags are leading the league and at -8 in turnover differential, last in the league. That is one thing that I could look at, giving the Bengals the edge here to prevail and cover that -7.5. But where the money's going for me right now, I'm with you on that, Chris. I think it's kind of a trap game, a short week. I do like how Burrow's able to bounce back after he makes mistakes. He seems to have a very short memory, which is great for a quarterback in this league. But personally, I just genuinely don't like Thursday night games to be really betting that much on, just because I really want to wait to see where money's moving and get ready for injury reports, COVID reports, and things like that, and focus more of my efforts into Sundays.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one, man. That was another addition I was going to say. Just these Thursday night games can really get you, and they could be really lopsided and unpredictable. So sounds like we're both mostly trying to stay away from that game. Let's go to the next one. Washington football team at Falcons. Falcons are 1.5-point dogs at home. Totals 47.5. You go first. This one, Steve.
Yeah, we have two bad teams here, right? I mean, this is going to be a dome dog, as I like to say, getting the points. Usually, a lot of people like to play that angle, but one thing I really want to see is that Washington defensive line show up. We really haven't. We've heard so much about them in the offseason. They were anointed. It's supposed to be one of the top lines in the league, and we haven't really seen that. Now we're going to see them against, a very dismal Falcons offense with Matt Ryan, who I think, who cannot be a mobile quarterback like Josh Allen or as mobile as Daniel Jones. So I'm really looking to see that Washington defensive line get after Matt Ryan here and be able to actually contain that offense. And Taylor Heineke, for his first road start in a very tough, Bills atmosphere, that's a tough start there. And he was able to move the ball, put points on the board. Unfortunately, that game just got out of the way, got out from them. He had a couple turnovers, as we saw, but I still think he is a very capable quarterback. And I do like Washington having that better defense. And I always go back to it and say it. They're playing special teamers as safeties. So let's see Taylor Heineke go down and get his first road win. I like Washington to cover the -1.5.
Yeah, sounds like we're on the same side here, Steve. We're in sync already to start this one off. I think last week's Washington loss was more about the Bills and the football team, right? I mean, like you said, Steve, it's at Buffalo, incredibly tough place to play. That walking into a buzzsaw in a game like that, especially after the Bills went down to Miami and clobbered them. Now they're feeling good about themselves again at home. So that game was more about the Bills. And I totally agree. This feels like a game where the Washington football team defense can finally show some of the talent that they have, especially on the defensive line. The Falcons' offense and guards on offensive line isn't one of the best in the NFL by any means. So there should be an opportunity for the Washington football team to finally feel better about themselves on defense. The Falcons really didn't do anything that well last week against the Giants. That was more about the Giants beating themselves as usual. Giants led in almost every stat. I mean, time of possession, yards, first downs. So the Falcons were lucky to get away with that win. They did what they had to do at the end of the game. But, I mean, Matt Ryan threw an interception right in the hands of one of the Giants' safeties in the end zone, and the Giants guy just dropped it, and then the Falcons scored a touchdown. So, really, it was just another hokey loss for the Giants, and a lucky win for the Falcons. And I don't care that Washington's on the road. Washington has the better overall team, more talent. I have to take the football team on the road, and I think we're getting an advantage here under a key number of 3. So I'm with you on that one, Steve. Could be a circle play. See what happens. Lions at Bears. Bears -2.5 at home. Total set at 42. Got to say, Steve, I don't even know what to say about this game, partially because what can I say about the Bears? I mean, next to the Giants, the Bears are a tough team to watch. I mean, Matt Nagy, I don't think I've over the years have taken seriously just how bad of a coach he can be. I mean, maybe, right, we're seeing these memes come out right now about Mitchell Trubisky. Maybe he's pretty damn good. He looked pretty good in the preseason with the Bills. Maybe it's just a Matt Nagy thing. I mean, the Bears are not setting up Justin Fields well on offense. Matt Nagy saying who knows who's going to play quarterback this week. What a disaster there in Chicago. And now we're seeing this line come down a little bit. Just no creativity in the play calling. I don't like anything that's going on in Chicago right now. The Lions are a team that fights, but the Lions were more handily outplayed by the Ravens last week than the stats show. I'll talk more about that when we talk about the Ravens. But the Lions do hang in games, so I have to lean towards the Lions at 2.5. But now that it's come down, I don't like it as much as 3. But I do kind of like the under. Bears over-relying on their defense as always. The Lions playing much better defense, and it's in Chicago in the grass. Slower field. So this is a low total at 42, but I kind of like under 42. What do you say about this one, Steve?
Well, we know the Lions are an 0-3 team, but I would say that they're the best 0-3 team for what that's worth. Chicago, they were a disaster last week, giving up 9 sacks. A lot of it, too, as I was hearing, wasn't as much on field as much as like veteran offensive line key players that were making a lot of mistakes. Like Greg Olsen even talked about Jason Peters trying cut blocks on a 3rd and 15 when the quarterback clearly needed time. Like, why are you going down and cut blocking to block when Myles Garrett can just get right back up? So I think we're going to see a better, more polished offensive line from the Bears this week. I think they're going to have to really, come back a lot better prep for this game. However, Detroit, like you said, stats did lie in that game. They did hold the Ravens to 116 total yards in that game, with, Lamar, how versatile he is, and he relies more on the run game, that they were able to contain him in order to keep that game close. And it took a miracle. It took a damn near a miracle for the Ravens to win it, but they pulled that off. And in Detroit, they are that team that is going to give a lot of problems against the spread, like we've talked about. And I just like them in this matchup here with a lot of people calling for Nagy to be fired already. Can't make up his name. Is it Foles? Is it Dalton? Is it Fields? I think it's going to be Fields again this week. I heard injury reports Dalton won't be ready again. If Dalton is healthy, he still might be the starter. I don't think Fields is ready either. And I'm going to do this trend where I'm going to just keep picking against these rookie quarterbacks this year, because so far last week, I don't think any of them covered. I'm going to just hope that trend continues, and I'm taking Detroit +3.
Yeah, rookie quarterbacks 1-10 straight up so far this year. Mac Jones is the only one that's won a game. Pretty crazy. Yeah, and for what it's worth, Jared Goff is at least like echoing Dan Campbell's sentiments. This is a team that's going to fight. We're going to keep on punching back. I mean, he seems to be getting up for the coach. So, I mean, the whole team is embracing that mentality for giving me points with the Lions against a bad Chicago team. What can I say? I mean, I'm starting to like that even more, I guess. All right, so let's go to the Titans and Jets. Jets 7-point dogs now, was 7.5, down to 7. That might be because of some injury news. Julio Jones and A.J. Brown could be out for this game, apparently, which is not good news for the Titans, but it is against the Jets at least. It is at New York, so Jets at home +7, total set at 44. What do you think about this one, Steve?
Yeah, that was big injury news, and I know it moved the line a half point down, but the problem is the Jets aren't getting any offensive production. Zach Wilson, four interceptions 2 weeks ago, 2 interceptions last week. They have 0 offensive production. They didn't even score a point last week. After the week 1 start that the Titans had, they've really come back into their own. They look like that playoff caliber team. They're probably going to run away with their division. I don't see the Colts doing anything at this point. So what are the Titans going to do? They can still lean on one of the best running backs in the league against the Jets and hold Zach Wilson, have him turn over the ball. I still like the Titans to cover against another rookie quarterback. I'm going to play that narrative until it doesn't work.
Yeah. So the Titans, they definitely lean on Derrick Henry. They're probably still going to keep on doing that, especially with those injuries. The Jets, so far, the Jets aren't terrible against the run. I think they're number 14th ranked, allowing 111 yards per game against the run. So not great, but kind of mid-tier. Of course, this is a different running back and a different offensive line that they're facing this week. But I don't like a favorite of this size on the road. I know it's the Jets. I think the Titans are a great teaser play here. And that was a great call by you last week, Steve, on the Titans, getting past Indy. But I don't know what to take from that game because obviously Carson Wentz playing with 2 bum ankles, threw for 51%. That Indy offense is just bad. So I don't take much from the Titans defense from that game. But again, this is the Jets offense, which could be equally bad. So this is just one of these games I might just stay away from. I do think that Robert Saleh is a better coach than what he's shown. I mean, I would expect that eventually he gets his team up for one of these home games. So one of these games are going to be a trap game for someone coming, at the Jets or the Jaguars or one of these teams. But I'd rather put my money on Saleh. I think I'm going to put a small play in the Jets here, believe it or not, Steve. Just because the Titans, I think Zach Wilson can throw in the Titans defense. I know he's had his issues, but I don't trust the Titans secondary. I don't trust their defense very much. So I don't know. It's still kind of a lean for me or a small play, but I think both offenses are going to win more often than not. So I kind of also like the over 44. My strongest play right now is on the over, but I would actually look towards the Jets side in this one just because Titans now 2 straight wins. And it's a little gimmicky for me. I mean, it's all Derrick Henry. It's no defense. But again, it's the Jets. So how can I feel that good about that? I don't know. The Browns at the Vikings. The Vikings are +1.5. Totals at 51. So this one's me first. Kirk Cousins is balling so far. We all know that now. I mean, 306 pass yards per game, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 74% completion rate. He's only the 6th player in the last 25 years to throw for 8 touchdowns and over 70% in his first 3 games. Very good. His air yards are still up there. He's not exactly floating those long and deep balls. I think he has about a 37% completion rate on long balls. So it goes way down from there. And I think it's feasible to say that he might struggle this week against the Browns. The Browns defense finally showing what they're capable of last week against the Browns, or against the Bears, excuse me. Myles Garrett, 4.5 sacks by himself. Team total of 9 sacks last week from the Browns. Love their balanced offensive attack. Chubb ran for 84 yards. Hunt ran for 81 yards. Like I said in my Tuesday review of Week 3, a balanced attack like that with the defense finally performing like they should. And Baker Mayfield does not need to be a great quarterback. He could be a mediocre quarterback, which I think he is. So it works perfectly for him. But this is just one of those games where I could see either team winning. I kind of want to stay away from it because now it's down to 1.5, basically a pick 'em. The Vikings are at home. The Vikings clearly have a lot of talent, probably one of the best 0-2 teams coming into that game that we've ever seen. But the Browns are loaded too, and again, Baker doesn't have to do much. And I will give Baker credit for one thing: he's not making big mistakes, so that's a good thing for me, Steve. I think I'm just going to stay away from this one. It scares me a little bit.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those ones that is it's a little too close. You could see it going either way. For me, it really comes down to the Browns stopping the Browns and stopping their run game. Bray Baker hasn't shown us anything that like having to take control of a game and win a game with his arm yet. So if the Vikings somehow could stop that really good Browns run game, I think that's the way the Vikings will win this game. As you said, Cousins is absolutely balling out this year. The Vikings could very well be 2-1, if not 3-0 right now. So they're absolutely not a terrible team. Even though there is a narrative that we all play that Kirk Cousins sucks, he actually doesn't suck. I actually think he's really good, and the numbers are backing that up.
Yep.
And it's a passing league. It is. It's a quarterback driven league. So we're getting a quarterback that is, probably top 10, if not top 5 stat wise right now at home getting points. It's hard to not want to take a guy like that. So I'm going to lean right now Minnesota plus 1.5. But that Browns offense is tough, and Myles Garrett and that defense, they showed that they were ready to bring it last week. And if that defensive line continues to bring that, then Kirk Cousins could be definitely in for a very long day.
Yeah, Steve, I think we might have some issues picking Circa this week so far. I don't know if we're aligning a lot. Maybe we'll have more similar plays in these last games, but this is just one of those weeks. I mean, you got a lot of lines like this too, -1.5, -2.5. So it's just crazy, man. One of these weeks. But all right, let's go to the next one. Colts at Dolphins. Dolphins 1.5 point favorites. Here we go again. Dolphins at home. And Steve, I feel like you got first of all, totals at 42.5. But Steve, I feel like you have to be kind of celebrating a little bit in your head, seeing the Carson Wentz experiment just failing terribly so far. I mean, God, this guy. I mean, he can't stay healthy, can't throw the ball. It's not looking good.
I mean, the Carson Wentz experiment, but now we have the Jalen Hurts one, so who knows? This game, Colts at Miami, this is another tough one at we talked about with Cleveland and Minnesota. I kind of like the whole veteran narrative here with Brissett playing a former team. You kind of see that where they like to come out and really try to show up their old team, and Wentz was very, very lackluster last week. 19 for 37 with a 66 completion percentage. He's not 100%, and I still don't think he's going to be 100%. And he's still playing exactly like we've been talking about, holding onto the ball too long, trying to do too much. The Colts offense, just simply put, is not producing. Jonathan Taylor's not doing anything. They're just really not doing anything. Miami, on the other hand, they had 1 week to prepare with their backup quarterback, went into Vegas, which is a tough place to play, and very, very easily were in that game. They were in that game. It went to overtime. They had a dumb play call to produce a safety, but Brissett showed that he is still capable of leading a team. They have a solid defense that I think will get after Carson Wentz, and I saw Carson Wentz play against the Dolphins before as an Eagle, and he was terrible down in Miami. I look for that to continue. Carson Wentz sucks.
love that we're on the same side in this one, Steve, because I'm going to take the Dolphins on this. This is one of my favorite plays actually on the week. I mean, talk about going to keep on playing off a team until they show me otherwise. I mean, I don't like anything that's going on in Indianapolis right now. A ton of injuries. Darius Leonard sounding off after the game. They just don't have, like I said. I read it somewhere where somebody described the Colts offense as punchless. And I think that's a great explanation for what they are. Just not enough talent, no explosive plays. Carson Wentz can make things happen every now and then. But if he threw for 51% last week and struggled last week on those bum ankles against the Titans defense, now he's going to Miami against, in my opinion, a much better defense, especially in the secondary. So that line was creeping up all last week on the Dolphins. Should have seen that one coming. I mean, I did have a bet on the Dolphins, one of my premium bets. We didn't use it for Circa, but Dolphins hung in there. They covered the plus 3.5. I mean, I have to favor the Dolphins here. Better, healthier team. And Miami is still 8-0 ATS against teams with a losing record in the past 8 games, and 2-1 still this season. Of course, they blew it in week 2 against the Bills, but they're still 2-1 overall, so still covering ATS. 2 low-scoring offenses. I kind of like the under in this one too. The unders have cashed in 2 out of 3 of both of these teams' games, but I love the Dolphins in this one. At home, a way better coach, at least at this point, with the talent that Frank Reich has. I'm going to go with the Dolphins all day in this one. We're on the same side on that one, Steve. Let's go to the Panthers and the Cowboys. Very interesting game. Panthers looked really good on Monday night against the Eagles, much to Steve's chagrin for sure. But Steve also called that one, so he was all over that one. Won a little bit of money on that, as I understand too, Steve. But Panthers at Cowboys. Cowboys 5-point favorites at home. Total set at 50.5. So both of these teams are 3-0 ATS. Big. Well, I guess the Panthers aren't a huge surprise because of their competition so far, but they're playing well. And I think the Cowboys are somewhat of a surprise by what we've seen, especially from them on defense. But Dak has been unstoppable so far. I mean, nearly unstoppable. I think the Philly defense is still pretty damn good, man. But they could not stop Dak. I mean, when I played Philly at +4.5, I figured NFC East game, it's going to be tough, fought in the trenches. But this was just a track meet. I mean, Dak just thrown all over Philly. And the Eagles just didn't have an answer. And the Eagles didn't have the same level of play on the other side. The Panthers only allowing 3.8 yards per play. That's first in the NFL. They're also first against the pass yards and rush yards per game on defense. So Carolina, I mean, if you look up total team stats, the Carolina Panthers are first place in a ton of defensive stats. Now, again, level of competition, maybe not as great. Definitely a level up in competition this week with the Cowboys. But another aspect to this, I have to give the Panthers a significant coaching edge. I mean, one of these games, Mike McCarthy is going to blow just because he's just so bad at game management. I mean, that is unforgivable what he did at the end of the first half against the Eagles. Had all the time in the world, was not calling timeouts. It was just unbelievable. A line of 5, I definitely lean towards the Panthers still. And I mean, I'm worried again about the same narrative that happened on Monday Night Football, right? Dak could just not be stopped as usual. But this Panthers defense, I think, is legit. I think they're very disciplined. And so I have to lean the Panthers, and I also love them as a teaser leg. I mean, 5 is a lot of points for a 3-0 Panthers team that's number 1 in defense. I can move that up to over 10. So I really have to love the Panthers in that way. Interested to hear what you have to say about this. I think you have a good handle on the Cowboys, Steve.
Well, I think Dallas is the real deal. Like, absolutely. Like, the close loss to the Bucs week 1, impressive road win against the Chargers, who we saw beat the Chiefs, and just absolutely dismantling and handling the Eagles. That game wasn't even close. It should have actually even been a higher score, but apparently when you cross the line with the football and you review it, they say it's not a touchdown anymore. I don't know. Offense and defense were both humming for them now. They look impressive. The only thing that's going to get in their way is Mike McCarthy, because you said his clock management is just atrocious. It's going to bite them one day. If it's sooner than later, we will see. But Panthers losing McCaffrey for me, I mean, that's one of their biggest offensive weapons. And I really don't know how well Sam Darnold's going to have to manage to have to put that whole entire workload on his back now as the guy. He could really lean more on McCaffrey in previous games. They were fortunate enough that when McCaffrey did go down, they were still just playing the Texans. If that was any other team, Sam Darnold could have maybe became more of a shell of himself, as we saw with the Jets, and I was afraid that was about to happen. Luckily, it didn't, as we were on the Panthers last week. I still really like Dallas. I think their offense is humming. They are a really good team. Dak is on a mission. Their defense is coming to play. Diggs is awesome in the secondary. The rookie Parsons coming off the edge for DeMarcus Lawrence is getting after quarterbacks. And I'm sorry, it's still Sam Darnold for me. I need to still see him play tougher competition. If Carolina Panthers could come into Dallas and beat Dallas on the road, I'll start believing in Darnold. But for right now, I like Dallas to cover this handily.
Yeah, and if I may say, for those of you listening, this is sort of a classic like stats versus game narrative situation. And to be honest with you, after hearing Steve say that, because I didn't mention the just how impressed I am by the Dallas defense. because I was going to say the same thing about Diggs and Parsons. I mean, not only do they have guys now, but these guys are really playing hard. But so what you're hearing is Steve talking about, game narrative, how the game is going to play out. And I'm just like, hey, +5. I mean, that's a great number. This is a team that's 3-0. This is a team that's really good on defense. But I'm telling you, after I hear Steve say that, even when I was writing these notes, I'm like, man, but the Cowboys, where are their weaknesses right now? I mean, I guess Mike McCarthy's the weakness, but if he's okay, the Cowboys they really are humming. They're at home. I could be convinced to switch sides on that one, Steve. I really could. Now, I wouldn't tease down the Cowboys. I would still tease up the Panthers. But yeah, Sam Darnold. I mean, I think the Dallas defense is something we have to start thinking about, right? It's not something we thought about before. But they can definitely limit an offense without Christian McCaffrey. So that's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to pass it over to you for this next NFC East team that you may be familiar with, the Philadelphia Eagles, hoisting the Kansas City Chiefs at home. Eagles are still +7.5, still got the hook there. Total's 54.5.
Well, it's like you and I were talking about earlier, and you tweeted out about these 7.5 point games. These are the ones that we feel that Vegas is just craving you to take the points here, right? Because they want you to have that hook. Oh, 7.5. Philly should cover by 7. No, I still see this Eagles team as a very unpolished organization. They don't have an identity. They had 3 run plays on Monday Night Football. They couldn't get anything going, and it was the same types of plays that I saw against San Francisco, just rolling out and trying to throw the deep ball, trying to throw it in double coverage, trying to do too much, put so much emphasis on Jalen Hurts to put everything on his shoulders. And we saw what that was turning into: interceptions, pick sixes. It was not getting done for Philly at all. Andy Reid is 2-0 against his former team. And the Eagles struggle with dynamic teams. Case in point, Dallas. So it's not going to get any easier with Patrick Mahomes coming into town now. And you're getting the Chiefs off of 2 losses. Good luck. You don't think they're going to be ready to come? This isn't going to be a trap game for them or anything. No, they're coming ready to play because they need a win badly. The Eagles are who they are. The Chiefs are Super Bowl contenders. Let's not get it twisted right now. One thing I'm really looking forward into this game is, ever since Brandon Graham went out, tight end production has already gone through the roof. We're trying to play that too high safety look, and that middle of the field in the Dallas game was absolutely exposed. Dalton Schultz went 6 receptions, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I think Kansas City has a really good tight end in Travis Kelce. So look for that. Look for any player props with him. I think he's going to have an absolute day. I like Kansas City -7.5.
Well, I love that. And I said it on my Tuesday pod too. I think it's time, all you listeners. I mean, I've been listening to Steve talk about Eagles games for a long time. Even I don't listen sometimes for some reason. But Steve, not that you're going to go 16-0 every year on Eagles games, but you've been white hot predicting Eagles games, from the first week. But let me just play devil's advocate here too, because I'm on the same side as you. I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs in this one. But just to play devil's advocate, so we know the Chiefs aren't covering anymore. They're just not. The Chiefs are 0-4 in their last 4 games as a favorite, and the Eagles are 5-1 at home in their last 6 games as an ATS underdog. So that trend just scares me a little bit. But again, game narrative wise and everything that we can expect, great explanation of the Eagles are just a team without an identity. That totally checks out to me. I mean, if you watch the Eagles, there's talent everywhere, but they just haven't figured it out yet, right? They're just not making the throws. Plays kind of die, blown coverages. They're just making too many mistakes. It's probably reminiscent of a first-year coach too. But I'm on the same side as you here, Steve. That those trends scare me a little bit. But I mean, Andy Reid, hopefully he's okay. Hopefully I'm sure that he'll be at the game. But maybe going back to Philly is a little bit of an up in motivation for him too. I don't know. He doesn't play there very often, but you got to believe after 2 straight losses that the Chiefs are going to play their best football against the Eagles in Philly. So I'm on the same side as you. All right, I'll take the other team in the NFC East that we love to hate here, at least for me these days, and that's the Giants. My Giants at the Saints. Saints 7.5 point favorites at home. Totals at 41.5. Short story is I can't trust the Giants right now. I mean, the Giants are doing the same shit they've been doing for many years now. This is an offense averaging 18.6 points per game, and it should be lower because, as we noted in the first game of the season, they shouldn't have even scored that garbage time touchdown. So it's just the same old stuff every week. I mean, I had Red Zone on Sunday, and I'm following the Giants on my phone. Red Zone never came on. I mean, Red Zone barely came on for the Giants game. You know why? Because the Giants were never in the red zone. They went, 10 yards, 20 yards, punt, 10 yards, 20 yards, punt. The Falcons did the same damn thing. It was just one of those snooze fest games, as always, for the Giants. Again, plenty of talent on the Giants, but something's wrong there. Front management, coaching, something's not clicking there. Significant coaching advantage here for Sean Payton. And there are two narratives for the Saints. Some people could see the Saints who have not played at home yet in New Orleans. Some people could say, oh, man, they're back at home. They're around friends and family. Maybe they're just going to chill out. Maybe that's going to be a negative. I don't think so. I think the Saints going back to New Orleans, here come the Giants who can't do anything on offense. And the Saints defense, they got some guys on defensive line. The Saints defense really showed out against the Patriots. Mac Jones, who's not an aggressive thrower, forced into multiple interceptions. I think he had 3 or 4 on the day. So they just totally suffocated a pedestrian Patriots offense that's probably way more creative than the Giants. And now here come the Giants. Great teaser leg for the Saints here to just tease them down to winning. I also lean under. This line was at 43. I already got under 43. Now it's down to 41.5. Still kind of like the under because, again, Giants don't score in that Saints defense. But in short, if I would have to go anyway with the line, 7.5 is a lot of points, but I would have to go with the Saints. But it's a great teaser leg, and I still like the under. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, this game for me, I really can't trust either team with this Jameis Winston roller coaster. He is one of the only quarterbacks to have not thrown for to be 2-1 and not have thrown for over 150 yards in a game. So it's just they really lack kind of an identity for me as well. I want to see Jameis Winston get going, but it's like I've always talked to with him. Don't really feel comfortable taking him with 7.5 points to cover. I'd rather like taking him when he's getting 7.5 points to cover without that pressure. Giants, they're losing Shepard, it looks like, and Slayton this week. They're going to be relying on Galladay and then rookie Kadarius Toney, who, in my opinion, I don't know if he's exactly polished enough to be taking on that big of responsibility. If the Giants could somehow shut down Kamara, that's easier said than done, then they might have a chance, but I just don't see that happening either. I just feel like this could be a sloppy game to an extent, and I don't really trust either of these teams. So I'm just going to fade this one and just see how they each play out.
Yeah, final score like 24-13 to me, something like that. Just bad game. All right, let's go Texans at Bills. Bills 16-point favorites. It was 17. I think it came out at 17. Mm-hmm. Down to 16 now. Still a ton of points against an NFL team at Buffalo. Total set of 47.5. Yeah,
that's a big spread. I mean, those are the types of spreads that kind of get you like, I don't really want to touch a spread that big. It is Davis Mills, rookie quarterback, first start on the road, so that is something to think about. He did come in on the road against the Browns, and he got a touchdown, threw an interception. Bills certainly they've gotten over their week one loss. They look like they're back on track. They went into Miami, dominated. They were back at home against, which I think Washington is obviously, I think, a better all-around team than Houston, and absolutely dominated. I know it's a massive spread, but Houston could still only score 9 points on the Panthers. And a lot of the times, if you look at Davis Mills' production, he went 19 for 28 with only 168 yards. That's just a lot of check down, a lot of high volume, high percentage throws that aren't really going to do anything against anyone. So I don't really see Houston being able to produce that much on offense. And I do like the Bills to cover the 16.
Yeah, I mean, I hate this game by the numbers because of where it's at. And pro better in me wants to be like, oh, if this goes up to 17, I'll take the Texans. But then I feel like I'm going to be hating myself on Monday because it's just one of those games. I mean, a sinking ship in the Texans going to Buffalo, arguably the hardest place to play in the NFL right now. We already know about Josh Allen and the offense. But most impressive thing to me is the Bills' defense. I mean, they are playing hard. They're flying around the ball. I think it could be you can make an argument that the Bills clearly have the best team in the AFC right now, the most balanced team, good on defense, great on offense. I have to side with the Bills here too, but that's it's just a lean for me right now because of the amount of points. But if you do want the Bills, you should probably take it now because this line could go back up to 17 when some of the sharps come in. All right, let's go Cardinals at Rams. Rams 4.5-point favorites at home. Spotlight game here. 2 3-0 teams. Total set of 54.5. So a lot of this stuff we probably all already know because these two teams are in the spotlight so much. But Kyler Murray balling, Stafford and the Rams balling. Kyler is first in the NFL and throws under pressure and red zone completion. Just playing out of his mind right now, cannot be stopped. Stafford 3 scoring plays over 50 yards already. I expect these offense to win more often than not here. Now, but divisional games usually mean more defense, right? But things are kind of different these days. I mean, we've seen these huge games from the Rams and the Cardinals. They go up into the 60s, even if they're big games. Kingsbury 0-4 against the Rams in his tenure. Kyler 0-4 against the Rams, and he doesn't play as well. 11 sacks, 4 picks, 5 touchdowns. And some trends here that are going against the over. So I kind of liked the over when I was first looking at this game. The under is 13-3 in the Cardinals' last 16 road games. The under is also 13-3 in the Rams' last 16 games as a home favorite. So trends are going towards the under. How do I not like the over with these two offenses? Because I think the two offenses are just going to win more often than not. I have to lean to the Cardinals right now because they're 3-0 and it's just 4.5 points. We're getting over key numbers there. So just by the numbers, I want to go with the Cardinals. But the Rams are such a complete team. The way that they handled. See, this is the sickness kicking in right now. Who the hell did they face last week?
The Bucks, Brady.
The Bucks, for Christ's sake. The way that they handled the Bucks, I mean, they were ahead that entire game. They controlled that game, right? Brady couldn't come back. They just stayed ahead. Really, really impressive win. I mean, if Brady sees the Rams again in the playoffs, which is a good chance that might happen, I think that's actually a great spot for Brady because now that's twice in 2 years that the Rams got the best of Brady. So you almost hope if you're a Rams fan that they would have lost that one because now Brady's going to be even more pissed off going to that game. But the Rams just look really good right now, man. So it's just a lean on the Cardinals, and it's a lean to the over, but I hate those trends. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, those trends are definitely scary. But initially, my thought as well is I'm leaning towards the Cardinals. Last week I was all over McVay. That was McVay's mini Super Bowl for the season. You could tell the way he was celebrating with Deshaun Jackson. He was absolutely drawing up that to beat Brady. That was like his mini Super Bowl. This week it's a division matchup in one of the hardest divisions in this league. And we're getting over that key number with a 3-0 team, and that is still hard to ignore after even looking at all those trends. Kyler Murray is a dynamic player, as we all know, and he can contain, unlike Brady, who is just, statuesque. If he doesn't get rid of the ball, that defense is going to swarm him like we saw. Kyler is the type of player that can get out and move around in that pocket and make plays and extend plays. I really like that about him. I really think that 4.5 is what's going to be key here. And when we looked at this line, when it opened up, it was actually at 6. And the public, 52% of the public is on the Rams. And that moved down significantly to 4.5. So that's kind of telling me that, Arizona is going to be in this game. I like them to cover this 4.5.
I love it. Might have some agreement there. Might have a circuit play there. How about that? All right, Seahawks. That'd be a scary one, though, Steve. If we took the Cardinals.
Very, very scary one.
Okay, Seahawks at 49ers. I think this could be the toughest game on the board. This and the Chargers and Raiders, which we'll talk about later. But Seahawks at 49ers. 49ers 2.5-point favorites. Seahawks looking bad past 2 weeks. Total set at 52. This one goes to you, Steve.
Yeah, for me, a lot of the ways I look at these games is it really does come down to me for a lot of quarterback play. It is a quarterback league, and I like to look up quarterback matchups. I'm not big on Garoppolo. I honestly don't think he is. I think he's a game manager, run of the mill quarterback versus Russell Wilson, who I put up in like a top 5, and I just feel like this is a good spot for the Seahawks to come back after dropping 2 games, that they can come in to one of their division opponents, plus 2.5. And anytime you're getting Russell Wilson with plus 2.5, it's hard not to like that. I just can't get past that kind of points with him. Niners, as we know, have a better defense, and Seahawks have not been showing anything on defense. You giving up that lead to the Titans, but again, they lost and they did get blown out by Vikings. But like we said, I think Vikings are a lot better than what we think. So I like Seattle to have a bounce back game here, even though they're on the road. But it's still a division game, and those division games can be close.
Yeah, and that was an ideal spot for the Vikings last week, right? I mean, ton of motivation, 0-2 at home. But this is also, this is a redemption game sort of for San Francisco after that tough loss on Sunday night. They're going to want to get back. They don't want to lose 2 in a row. But this is a division game. Seattle just needs to win period too. Seattle going 1-3. When you have so many good teams in these divisions, right, somebody has to be at the bottom. The fact that the Chiefs are 1-2, bottom of the AFC West right now, is just some crazy things happening. But what's really concerning to me about Seattle is they're not scoring in the second half at all. They scored 6 points against Tennessee 2 weeks ago, including overtime. 6 points in the second half. Last week, 0 points in the second half. Not sure what's going on at halftime here with this Seattle team, but that just scares me a little bit. Like maybe Pete Carroll's losing some of these players. I don't know. I always love points with Russell Wilson. I just wonder if I should be looking at the Seahawks differently right now because, kind of like the Steelers, right? Some of these teams are showing us different stuff. Maybe it's a changing of the guard or just like something different is going on. I always trust in Russ, but this is a tough one for me. I'm not sure which way to go for right now, man. I actually like Jimmy G a little more than you, who's making some crisp throws last week. He can make the throws when it matters, but he doesn't shock you like an Aaron Rodgers, like a Russell Wilson, and certainly not as athletic as those guys either. But this one is I got to work harder on having an angle at this one, I guess, and I don't know if it's ever going to come up because this is just a tough matchup. Two teams who really want to win. San Francisco with the edge at home, but definitely an edge at quarterback for the Seahawks. Edge on defense for the 49ers. So we'll see. But for now, maybe the premium customers will hear from me about this one, but I don't have a play on that one for now. So this next game I have a play on. I really like this game actually. Ravens at Broncos. This line has moved from the Broncos as the favorite to the Ravens as the favorite now. Broncos +1 at home. Total set at 45. And I really like the Ravens in this one. And let me break down why. So we've heard all before. First of all, I'm a fan of the Broncos big time. I don't care that they faced 3 of the worst teams in the NFL. They did exactly what you're supposed to do against 3 of the worst teams in the NFL. They have outscored those opponents 76-26. Okay, so they're just completely dominating every one of those opponents. That's not hard to do, that's not easy to do. Excuse me. And one of the best stats, it doesn't make much sense actually, but one of the biggest indicators for like postseason success are teams that beat up on bad teams in the regular season. We've seen that time and time again. Denver has been delivering in that way. Okay, they're holding passing attacks to under 200 yards per game. They're running the ball really well. I like the Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams combination. So all that is good stuff, okay? Now, on the flip side, KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy on IR, not good, losing some talent there on the Broncos offense. And I know Lamar is going to face a real test here, but now we see that Rashad Bateman just came back. He's starting to practice. I don't know if he's going to play on Sunday. And the Ravens, you can consider pretty lucky for them to win last week, but they outplayed the Lions way more than the final score showed. They had a full 2 yards per play on average, more than the Lions last week. That's a lot of yards, actually, when you average 2 yards more on every play than the other team. So they scored on their last 5 possessions. So, the Ravens really controlled that game, should have scored a lot more points. That's what Detroit does, I guess. They just kind of hang in games. But I think that was sort of a letdown spot for the Ravens, too, after that big game against the Chiefs. So this week, now the only thing that's working against Baltimore is they've been playing on the road a lot. I think their last 2 preseason games were on the road, and 2 out of the first 3 games this season have been on the road. So they've just been on the road a lot. So now this one's on the road, too, at altitude in Denver. It's a tough spot, but the Ravens' defense is better than they played recently. We saw how good they could play against the Chiefs, at least in the second half. They didn't play all that well last week, but they did limit Detroit. I think this is this is a really tough spot actually for Denver to slow down a Ravens team that's well coached, going to be a little more buttoned up this week. It's only -1. We have to think based on previous years that the Ravens have the better team. So I do like the Ravens in this game. You're giving me a pick 'em basically. If Steve likes this, it's probably going to be I'm going to want it to be a circa pick. But we'll see what Steve thinks. Steve, over to you.
Well, I actually absolutely love the Ravens here. When I first saw this line came out, I figured the Ravens were not going to be favored, and they weren't. Then we saw it trend it and move towards the Ravens being favored at -1 now. One thing I like, and the one narrative I'm leaning on really hard on this, is a team that faces adversity and can overcome it and win like the Ravens do. They grow from that, and I could see this team now going on an absolute tear. And I've seen it before with other teams. We all know I'm an Eagles fan. That the year they won the Super Bowl, they struggled with the Giants at home, hit a walk-off 62-yarder field goal, and then they didn't look back. They went on an absolute tear the rest of the season, and it's kind of like just coming of age for the season, just coming into their own. And I really think this is a spot where they're going to go play a 3-0 team. They've beaten the Chiefs, and I'm sorry, the Chiefs are 1-2. They're a good team. They're a Super Bowl contender. We all know that. So they have good wins. They lost. Guess who? The Raiders. That's another 3-0 team. All right, so the Ravens aren't a bad team. We wanted to write them off really easily because they were having all these injuries, but they're coming into their own now, and I think they're getting their swagger back. And I'm going to take a former league MVP quarterback, pretty much in a pick 'em, more than I'm not. So I'm going to lean on the Ravens on this one.
Yes, I love that we're on the same side now, and I got amped over here, Steve. I didn't want to talk over you. At the beginning of this podcast, I'm like, man, we're not going to agree on everything, and now I'm like, hey, man, we're going 5-0. No doubt about it.
Let's go.
All right, Steelers at Packers. Packers are 7-point favorites. I think it was 7.5 at one point. Or maybe 6. I don't know. Has this moved? You know?
Yeah, well, that's my main point about this game. It was 7, then went to 6.5, and back to 7. An astonishing on Action Network. 83% of the money is on the Packers, and this line hasn't even budged. I would tread very lightly with this one. That kind of tells me to take the Steelers and lean Steelers a little bit. I know it makes no sense, but when does the NFL ever make sense? The Steelers got absolutely embarrassed last week. Again, 2 weeks in a row at home. Big Ben, again, we know it looks slow, old. Tyler Boyd for the Bengals said that they simply gave up. They could tell that their receivers just gave up. They have to have some salt. They have to come back, and they have to show the league. They have to show everyone what Steeler football is at some point, playing a team like the Green Bay Packers. I'm leaning Steelers. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it one of my plays this week, but watching the money, watching the trends on this, it's a scary line. It doesn't make sense. You automatically see that. You see the Packers. You see how they've been playing. Oh, well, that's easy. Let's take the Packers. When it seems too easy, you're usually going to be wrong. And I don't feel good about it. You're usually going to be right. And that's how I kind of like to play some of my angles and lines here. So I'm leaning Steelers on that one because of where the money's going.
Total agreement with me here, Steve. I think this is one of those bets where Vegas is going to win big. Everyone's going to expect the Packers to blow out the Steelers. Oh, the Steelers lost against the Bengals and the Raiders. Well, we know the Raiders, like you said, are better than we thought. Bengals, at least Joe Burrow is pretty damn good, right? And the Steelers, with all their injuries, the Steelers were only able to get one pressure on Joe Burrow last week. When have you ever heard a Steelers defense get one pressure and 0 sacks in a game? Just unbelievable. There has to be positive regression for this defense. Now, a lot of these guys on defense who were injured are practicing this week. We don't know if TJ Watt is going to be back or not, but I totally agree with you on this one, Steve. It's also a huge letdown spot for the Packers, in my opinion, and for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers cares more about winning in San Francisco than people think. He's from California. Those coaches hate each other, right? Shanahan tried to get Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. It didn't happen. There's a lot of hate between those teams. That was a big win for Green Bay, especially 2 years earlier, right? San Francisco bested Green Bay in the NFC Championship. Big win for the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is in MVP form. He's back in the media. Everyone loves him. And here come the sloppy old Steelers, and everyone just assumes that the Packers are going to roll them. I don't think so. I think this is a letdown spot for the Packers at home. I think the Steelers are going to bring more creativity this week. They're going to use some of their speed on the outside. They absolutely need to do better things in the run game. I mean, it's bad, right? 201 total team rushing yards in 3 games. That is not good. So that's what, under 70 yards a game. Not good. They have to do better. But if TJ Watt is back in particular, he is the closest thing that you can get to an MVP of an entire team for being on defense. I like the Steelers this week. I believe in them as a buttoned-up franchise who's going to turn the ship around at least a little bit and be competitive. They're not going to be blown out all year. And I don't care if it's the Packers at home. So love that, Steve. I think it's very sharp the way you're thinking. Of course, I'm biased because I'm thinking it too. but we're on the same side on that one. Okay. Bucks at Patriots. Here we go. My God, probably to talk about this shit for an hour. So I guess I'll go first in this one. Bucks at the Patriots. Patriots 7-point dogs at home. That was 6.5. Now it's up to 7. And we just learned that James White is out for the season. It's a big loss there for the Patriots. I mean, he's basically just another pass catcher, right? And they're not very strong in that position as it is. So that could be just another one of the reasons why the line went up. But probably the bigger reason why 96% of the bets are on Tampa Bay. 90% of the money is on Tampa Bay, according to the Action Network. I mean, that's absurd. So everybody expecting the Bucks to handle the Patriots. Tom Brady coming back home, pissed off after losing against the Rams. But that scares me, Steve, a little bit. I mean, that is a ton of money, a ton of bets. I mean, at the beginning of the week, I'm like, oh, I'm going to say to Steve, Monday morning at 7 a.m., I'm going to be like, Steve, Bucks -6.5, circa play. But I don't know about that anymore, man. I mean, the Patriots, listen, Bill Belichick, he might be crabby. He might not be very good with people, but he's still a defensive-minded genius. There's no doubt about that. He's proven that over and over again. This is a very, very good team against the pass. They're second only to the Panthers. Right now, they're allowing something like 156 yards a game or something through the air, like 160 something. I don't know the exact stat, but they're second in the league so far. Mac Jones has a lot of work to do. This is going to be a tough game for him, but I feel like it's a game where, Bill Belichick is going to be staying up every night to 2 a.m. He's going to be waking up at 6 a.m. They're going to be scheming things like out of this fucking world. And it's at least, Tom Brady's going to win, but I think it's going to be closer than people think. Right now, believe it or not, I fucking lean to the home team Patriots making this a game. What do you think, Steve?
Well, I mean, I can't just say what I did about the Steelers and Packers and then go against it, right? I mean, it's kind of the same narrative here. I mean, it's even bigger, 96% and 4% after Vegas just got absolutely housed last week. This is where they're going to make their money back. It doesn't make any sense, does it? I mean, personally, when I was handicapping these games myself, I thought this line seemed a little low. I actually had the Patriots on paper at 10, 11 points. Not Patriots, Bucks at 10, 11 points. And so to see it at 6.5, 7 seems just a little off. It doesn't make any sense. Like the Bucks should just come in there and completely wipe them out. We got right. Antonio Brown coming back. James White is out, as you said, and quite frankly, the Mac Jones is just a game manager. I think he had 3 picks last week. Wasn't very impressive. But again, looking at the money, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it might be a hero call to try to go against that and say, oh, I'm going to take Tampa Bay. New England, and try to get too cute, or you can just stick to what you think, what you know. But I'm with you. I'm leaning Patriots here at home because you got to follow the money, and Vegas would rather take a 4% loss than a 96% loss.
Yeah, I mean, I can't explain it. Maybe the sports books are on the horn with Belichick or something. You're like, how late are you staying up? I don't know. I don't know how they know shit, but this is sneaky, man. This is real sneaky. Talk about a spotlight game. This game could get as big, bigger ratings than the Super Bowl. I mean, it might. I mean, probably not, but it's going to get a big rating. There's going to be a lot of eyes in this game. So Vegas doesn't want to. I don't know. Vegas doesn't want to lose this spot, like, and look that bad.
Well,
So,
I'm sorry, but this is
go ahead.
Belichick's Super Bowl this year, and he knows it. Like, this is his
100%.
Super Bowl. So if
100%.
that team's going to get up for any game, this will be it.
Yep. And then you have Sherman coming back. Now he's on the Bucs. It's like, they're just adding up all the angles in this one. It's just ridiculous. All right, one more game. This one goes to you first, Steve. Raiders at Chargers. This one is really tough for me. I mean, talk about a tough line. Chargers -3.5 at home. Total is set at 52.5. I'll be completely honest with the audience here. I mean, this one's going to Steve first too, but I don't have any notes on this one so far. I mean, I have shit in my head, but I'm just like, I didn't want to put anything down yet because I truly don't know. So, Steve, I hope you have a real confident play here because I'm a little, I don't know.
Oh, I absolutely love the Chargers here. I love the Chargers. After seeing what they did going into Arrowhead and going for it on 4th and 9, having the confidence in Herbert, what he's doing. Yeah, that 4th and 9 play call, it was a penalty. They didn't catch the ball, but that throw, that was a big-time NFL throw. If you saw that play with Herbert, put that thing on a rope and sent it right to the receiver, hit him right in the numbers. I'm impressed by Herbert. He is, as you have always talked about, the real deal. Derek Carr and the Raiders, they're looking good, but I wish they would have taken care of Miami a little better last week for me to be a bigger believer in them. I think we could see a little bit of a regression with Carr this week. I think they're going to play a lot harder of a Chargers defense that is coming into their own as well. Chargers offense, I think, has more skill positions, and overall, I think is a better team. I like that they're at home, and I could just see Carr coming back down to earth a little bit here, and we'll see more of a vintage Raiders defense. I mean, offense production where they look a little lackluster and dismal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that I did write down, or the few things that I noted, is that I just love the play calling from Brandon Staley at the end of that game against the Chiefs. You talk about aggressive. I mean, how many teams would just run the ball out, be conservative, give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes with too much time? But what did they do? I mean, Brandon Staley said, "This is my quarterback who I trust, who's a stud. I'm going to put the ball in his hand, and he's going to make the right decisions." And he did, like five awesome pass plays in a row to make that drive happen. That creates synergy between a coach and a quarterback that is not something you can quantify. I mean, I really believe that. Now, I love what the Raiders are doing so far too. I mean, Derek Carr, he should probably be in the conversation for MVP. I mean, he's playing ball. I mean, he's playing like it's the crazy thing about the Raiders is that this is not that different of a team. It's like the same team we've always seen. It's the same personnel, and yet they're just executing way better. So I don't know what's going on here with Gruden and with Derek Carr, but I like what I see from them. But I just wish that this line was like 3. 3.5 just scares me a little bit because it's still a divisional game. Chargers don't have a very good home field advantage, right? There's probably going to be like 70% Raiders fans there. But I don't know. People talk about that a lot, and it's like, how can I give that that much attention when Justin Herbert just went to Kansas City and won? Like, who cares? I don't think Herbert cares about the crowd, but I don't think it affects him that much. So if I have to lean to any side right now, I'm going to lean towards the Chargers. After hearing Steve say that, I like him even more. But I do think they clearly have the better defense. So that's obviously a big advantage there. And if Brandon Staley is clearly having an impact on that team. And he's starting to have a real impact on that defense, bringing that Rams mentality down there. I mean, that's going to be, this is some of the sharpest guys out there think the Chargers are a true Super Bowl contender, and it's getting increasingly harder to argue against that. And they look like a very complete team. I mean, Mike Williams is balling out. They're just like, the guys are kind of coming out of the woodwork. As long as they can stay healthy, scary team. So we'll see. If this was at Vegas, I might think about it a little bit differently, but it's not, right? Mm-hmm. So, all right, with that, I'm going to wrap this puppy up soon here, but let's go to our big Bulls bets of the week and our favorite teasers. Steve, I'll hand it to you for your big Bulls bet first.
Big Bulls bet. I like the Lions money line outright to win on the road in Chicago.
Ooh, I like that one. This is 2 weeks in a row. I haven't given a lot of thought to my big balls bet. I don't know, man. The New York Giants. No, I'm just kidding. I might have to get this one more thought, folks. I don't know. I mean, the Cardinals could win straight up, right? 4.5. You're going to get a pretty decent line there. Rams again. I love what Steve said about the narrative. Sean McVay just going wild for that game last week. Maybe the Cardinals just walk in there and surprise LA. I'll just say that for now. I'll say for now, I'll say the Cardinals are the team that could do it for me. And now I'll give my favorite teasers. So I can't give all my teasers because that's a premium customer thing. And I already sent out like 8 teaser legs. But definitely my favorite teaser out of all those teaser legs is going to be the Saints. Tease them down to a win. And Kansas City. I mean, you got to go against these NFC East teams after a while. They're just not as developed. They're struggling. If you combine KC and the Saints in a bunch of teasers across the NFL, I think you can make a lot of money this weekend. And you can tease them down to virtual winners.
Yeah, the teaser I liked was I even though the money was is weird right now for that bet, I still like teasing the Bucks down because I still think Tom Brady will win ultimately. So get that down, and then I like Dallas. I'm big on Dallas. I'll tease them down, and then Chiefs as well.
Wow, you're gonna tease down Dallas, so you get +2 with them, +1, something like that.
Yeah, you should get at least plus. I think +2 with them.
Yeah, nice. All right, wow. Steve is bullish on the Cowboys. Who would have thought? Yeah, I mean, hey man, they're showing it. There's no doubt about it.
They're showing it. Can't argue it right now.
That's right. See. All right. Well, another week, another dollar, another day, another dollar here from me and Steve. That is the broadcast here, laying the points with Farley Bets. Thank you for everybody who's been listening, either whether it's on Twitter or at the Odds Breakers or via podcast. I'm also putting these up on YouTube, so you can catch them and subscribe to the Farley Bets YouTube channel as well. Please give Steve a follow too at Snorm, SNORM. That's at Bobo Bets, BOH Bets. You can look for him at either one of those things. Follow Steve because clearly he's sharp. I mean, Steve's going to prove that all season. But if you follow both of us, you follow the Odds Breakers, you're going to be winning a lot of money this season in the NFL. Check us out at the Odds Breakers as well. Check out Sports Wager U. Steve, do you want to add something? I feel like you did.
Oh yeah, take Houston straight up for the value. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. What's the line there? It's got to be near like +1,000 almost.
+840. Yeah.
Oh my God,
it's +834. Yeah, take it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If the Texans somehow miraculously win that game, how many people are going to be out of Survivor this week? That's going to be.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
The early Survivor picks that I saw in my one line or in my one league was 43% already chose the Bills. It's just like it's just like almost half already. Like at the beginning of the week, it's just crazy. All right, that's it. Everybody signing off, laying the points of Farley Bets on behalf of Steve and I. Let's win some damn money once again. Check us out on all those sites and on Twitter, and we'll see you guys next week on the same.
Thanks, everyone. See you guys.
Boom.